Welcome, 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 everyone. Thank you for joining us again for the Founders Only podcast, where we pick the brains of great founders to deliver actionable advice on how to be the leader of the pack. I'm really pleased to be joined today by Chris Stevens of CyberFinders, which is a DC area cybersecurity firm focused on training, education, and job placement. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here, man.
So let's go ahead and get started with my first question for you is, can you tell us a little bit about your journey of becoming an entrepreneur and founder of CyberFinders, and why did you choose cybersecurity?
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, when I started off in the field, it wasn't called cybersecurity. It was information security or information assurance. At least my portion was. And then you would have the engineering portion as well, and then other parts that formed eventually cybersecurity. So when I started off, I was a certification accreditation engineer, and that's coming off being a facility security officer. So I was able to make that transition simply by working with standalone hard drives in the classified space in the SCIF. And that kind of springboarded me into getting into computers from a security perspective. And that morphed into what you see today, known as cybersecurity. So after spending about 18 years, maybe 19 years in the field, combined security and cybersecurity experience, I decided that I wanted to try to give back. I wanted to teach a skill that was growing exponentially. Also, I realized that there were more positions than qualified people, and I wanted to see what I could do to bridge that gap and get more people trained in the area of cybersecurity.
Excellent, excellent. And do you train most people that are local, or is it nationwide?
So it varies. We're kind of anywhere, everywhere. We're a hybrid type of setup. And so what we do is we focus on just the training aspect as a whole. So we have people that actually attend in person, and then we also have it set up. We have people that remote in and they attend as well. So we try to offer the hybrid environment to accommodate everyone.
Awesome. Okay, so while you were building this business, what were some of the challenges that you faced along the way in building CyberFinders? And what advice can you offer to entrepreneurs to overcome some of the challenges that you faced as you were growing your business?
I would say the biggest challenge I had was just getting finance. And one of the most difficult things you can do as a business owner, especially a disadvantaged business, is get funding. And as we already know, funding is the key to your success. I'm a government contractor. I want to go after government contracts. Well, how can I successfully go after government contracts if I don't have working capital? Working capital is needed because when I submit these invoices for net 30, I got to wait 30 days to get invoiced. Well, in the meantime, I have to pay my employees. And if you want to keep your employees, good employee retention starts with paying them on time. So if I had to fund the business myself, so to speak, just to get it off the ground. I did get a little bit of help from SBA along the way, and I'm working with them now to try to secure me a 7A loan that will give me more than enough capital that I need to not only expand my business, but to create more jobs out here in the industry.
Yeah, and the government doesn't usually pay net 30. They usually pay like net 180 or something like that. They do not pay on time. They really don't. And it's really amazing to me that they all the bureaucracy just really is a problem in that area. But you're absolutely right that funding is very, very important if you're trying to scale your business. So that's a very good point. Any other challenges you faced?
Some other challenges I face is just getting your name out there and building that trust amongst the community. So you really have to put in work. It's not one of those situations where you can just walk in and say, "Oh, I'm a cybersecurity company," and everybody come take a look at me. I mean, there were certain things that I had to do to get started. To be honest with you, it's almost like I had to become a bank. And when I say that, I mean, people don't have the kind of money to pay for the courses, right? So if the course is $2,000, I don't have $2,000. Well, with just getting started, you don't have merchant accounts, you don't have anything like that. So you don't have anything to back you. So what I had to do was I had to use my company as backing. So I would make these promise to pay, and then they would pay monthly. Well, that didn't work out the way I anticipated it would work out, but I kind of thought that there would be some shorts that I would take in getting off the ground. But what it did do, even though I didn't get paid all of the money, number one, it made me a little bit wiser. As you gain experience and you gain some traction and a little bit of tenure, you can then get a merchant account. So now I can proudly say that I'm partnered with a firm. And so if anyone wants to take my classes, of course, if you don't have the money up front, a firm is a very generous lending institution. I have been successful with making small purchases with them for the last 4 or 5 years. So just establishing that relationship right there gives you an advantage over the competition, because, hey, you can come to my courses because we'll help you. We're partnered with a firm. Everyone doesn't have that advantage to offer. But if I didn't go through what I went through, I wouldn't have known.
Exactly. You turned yourself into a collections agency, inadvertently.
That's what I was told. What the banker I was dealing with at PNC, I opened an account. He says, "Hey, man, you're not us." Didn't make sense at first. I had to think about it. I guess you're right. You got a point.
Well, that was nice of him. Where he had to check you a little bit.
He did. He had to give you a reality slap, because I'm just very, very, very passionate about what I was doing. And I wanted to get it off the ground. If I sat around and waited for handouts, if I sat around and waited for people to tell me that I'm good enough to do this, I would have never done it. And when you operate with passion, good things just happen. I'm a firm believer of that.
I love it. I like that. We're definitely going to have to pull that nugget out right there. So let's talk a little bit, actually, since you brought it up, let's talk a little bit about how you generate leads or how you generate new students for your courses. How do you do that?
So initially, how it started out was through social media, of course, just advertising. Every day I would post something new about, hey, join this class or join that class. But to get my first 5 group of people, I had to go to people that I trusted and that trusted me. Hey, I'm getting this program off the ground. Here's an opportunity to change your current career. I had everything from guys that worked at the dealership as car salesmen. I had other people that worked in property management. And so my whole goal was to help them transition and change their train of thought and potentially change their career objectives. And so not getting off track here, but the way to generate your leads is just to get it out there on social media. Number one, start with people that's close to you, somebody that's willing to trust you. And then ultimately, when I was able to do that, it allowed me to get some exposure. This exposure opened me up to an opportunity to teach the GovTech Accelerator program, career program. And from that, I was able to springboard into another class because maybe about 10 of the students from that class of about 40 students wanted to take their education to the next level. So they were interested in the risk management framework. And that's one of the courses that I in January. So the GovTech Accelerator program is the Security Plus and the Linux Red Hat. And you get the combination of the two. You get to sit in front of a GovTech recruiter and potentially get a job. That's why it's called the Accelerator program, because you go through this thing in 6 months. So I had the pleasure of teaching the first 3 months in Security Plus. So I was able to generate some leads there. Another way I was able to generate leads was I decided to become a cybersecurity instructor and get certified to get all my credentials. I decided to take it to another level and teach for Learning Tree International. So it was a lot of steps.
I'm sure that was a big brand awareness builder there. You have such a massive audience that you can tap into there. I was waiting to see if you were going to mention a large training institution that you could tap into to kind of get, like, really scale your exposure quickly to people who are looking to learn, which is your perfect target audience, right?
Absolutely. And I made sure that I was partnered with them rather than working for them. That's another key you want to remember.
Okay, so What are some KPIs or metrics that you think a business owner should track to determine if they have any risk in their area for a cybersecurity threat? What are some of the metrics that they can watch, and maybe we can also talk about some of the steps that they can take to kind of protect themselves without having the deep knowledge that you have?
So some of the things I recommend is when you get your network set up, you want to put certain appliances on there, certain security appliances. You want to make sure you definitely have your antivirus, your anti-malware set up. But you also want to make sure that you're able to track your incidents, right? You want to know when the incident occurred, when it hit the network, and when did you discover it, right? So that's critical to know. And that's a KPI that can be tracked. Another critical thing to know is your incident response time. How quickly did you respond to the incident versus when you identified it was detected and when you were able to eradicate it or mitigate it to some acceptable level of risk. The last part of that, I would say, once you identify it, we just talked about mitigation, right? And so that mitigation would include patch management. And making sure that you stay on top of all your patches. Your most vulnerable areas are your applications. They're always coming out with threats to go against applications that might be vulnerable in some aspect or another. So it is imperative that you constantly check your virus definitions. Number one, you constantly look for your updates for your applications, and you ensure that all your systems are patched. If you're doing manual patching, then I would recommend that you use a spreadsheet to track each machine that you patch. But if you're doing an automated push, then what I would recommend is that you do a scan after you do the automated push, just to ensure that all of the systems that you updated have the current versions, and it doesn't contain some of the libraries of the previous version. The libraries in the previous version will give you a false reading and make you think that the application is still on the system. So just doing those checks right there, you can definitely ensure that you keep a much tighter security posture and you're aware of your common threats.
So one thing that I have assumed as a business owner is that if we use Macs, that we are safer. Can you talk a little bit about that? Is that a misconception?
No, it's not a misconception. There are more viruses for Windows. Well, let's just ask this simple question. Which operation system is utilized more?
Windows.
Okay. So if you have an operating system that's utilized more, then you have these bad actors out there that create these bad things that can be done to your system. They like to do it in abundance, right? Because they're saying, hey, everybody uses Windows. So from that perspective, a Mac is more secure. But if you mean from the perspective, once the vulnerability enters your environment, well, a Mac is not going to be any more secure than a Windows environment. It all depends on how you configure it. So hardening your environment is a very key aspect to making sure that you keep your security posture up to speed. And the best way to do that is to get some type of application that can support your hardening efforts and kind of give you a snapshot of where you are and some of the things that you need to do to keep your security posture up to an acceptable level.
Another thing that we do internally, because, we're primarily a marketing agency, right? So Macs are sometimes needed for some of our staff. I personally use a Mac and have for a very long time, but we do not have a shared file server network, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So what we use is, let's just, without giving out all of our information of what we use, where this is going to be published online. Let's just say we use something like, Office 365 or Google Drive or something like that to share files and collaborate on files with each other. So that way each system is kind of separated. And then we also minimize emailing back and forth by using something like Slack or something like that, where we can communicate off of an email server or a file server that could potentially be exposed to something. And then we're emailing each other back and forth, unsafe files and things like that. Do you think that is an okay strategy, or? Would you say well, I guess what I'm asking is, for a small business, who may not have, 50 plus employees, who may all be on Windows on a shared network, do you think that kind of compartmentalizing people so that they're not on the same network and combining that with having Macs and Windows, but then making sure that Windows systems have that antivirus and anti-malware software installed on it? Do you think that that's a good strategy to try to avoid the risks?
And that's kind of a difficult question to answer, but for the most part, anything that you keep off of your email server will be more beneficial to you. When you talk about these collaboration environments, they are cross-platform, so they can be used on any operating system. I think with the way that the government is going and they're, locking down their systems, just as well as I do, they use Google Workspace now, and they use Microsoft Teams, and that's a collaborative space. So what they have done is, with these applications, they've basically added some serious security controls to them, so they will be accepted in the government space. So when you talk about these different applications, I think they're great when you have the security implications on them that the government puts on them.
Got it.
And so if you follow that model, then I would say 100%. But you're talking about being an individual or a small business enterprise, which the rules might slightly differ, because you might not have the same level of compliance that maybe government space does. So if you replicate what they're doing, then I would say that is probably the safest way to go about doing things now, because they do have them accredited. And so when we go to look up what tools, so there's this thing that we go to, it's called FIPS, right? And it's basically the standards of technology and processing, as far as what the standards are and what can be used. So that has been added to that list as an approved software to be used in the government space.
You're saying FIPS?
Yep, FIPS.
Okay.
FIPS, 140-2, and then 140-2.
One thing our internal engineers tell us all the time is they're always telling us to update our Chrome. Everybody stop what you're doing and update your Chrome. So I don't know if that's that helpful, but do you have any knowledge about protecting websites?
So what I did with me being a small business, I just gave it all to SiteLock. What I did was I just transferred the risk, right? I can try to keep my network is locked down as much as my website locked down as much as I want to, but there's certain risks and certain vulnerabilities that I'm just not aware of. And so by me giving this over to SiteLock, they definitely put in the standardized security implications, but they also do their own internal testing to make sure that your network continues to stay safe. And if it is compromised, then you'll be notified.
Yep.
So
we use something similar. So how do you keep up with the latest trends and threats? You just mentioned, FIPS. Are there any other resources that you tap into or read on a regular basis to kind of keep up with what's happening in the cybersecurity world with the latest threats and trends?
So yes, well, I tend to go to different trade shows. I go to different I attend a lot of webinars. With me being an 8A certified SBA company, there's several different trainings that we can do to stay up to speed. You can also join a professional organization. I'm partnered with EC Council. I'm an accredited training center through EC Council, and I'm also a trusted authorized partner with CompTIA. And so getting with any one of those professional organizations, of course, they're 8570 compliant, and that means that they have the certifications that the government wants. These certifications are written into every contract, like, for example, the Security Plus or certified authorization professional. That's more along my line, where you certify and authorize systems. And then you have different journals that you can subscribe to. And the biggest part of obtaining these certifications is continuing your education. So it's
Yes.
not one of the things where, hey, I get a certification, I'm good for the rest of my life.
Yes. Yes.
It's not the case whatsoever. So every 3 years, hey, we want 50 CEUs from you. So now what are you going to do between the time of now and the 3-year time of getting your CEUs? And that's why I recommend, I always recommend this to everybody, get a new certification. And so what that basically
means, I
means,
do every time.
you go. Yep. 40 hours, right? You take a 40-hour course, you can use all 40 of those hours for your CEUs and your continued education points. And you got 10 left, right? You got some journals. Did you sit in a seminar? Did you sit on a webinar? For me, I'm an instructor. So I just taught the RMF class for Learning Tree International. That was a 32-hour course. So I got 32 CEUs right there. I just came off teaching the Security Plus for the GovTech Accelerator program. So at one point in time, I was pretty busy. I was teaching for the boot camp during the day, and in the evenings, I was teaching as well for the GovTech Accelerator program. So I have more than enough CEUs for all of my certifications. And then the greatest thing about that is if I use 50 CEUs for my Security Plus to renew that, I can then take those same 50 CEUs and use them to renew my Certified Ethical Hacker. So, get those certifications, attend any and everything that's free. If there's something that's low cost, but it's beneficial, like a networking event where you meet and greet, and pay it. It's well worth it. And then while you're there, make the best usage of your time. Come with your business cards. Come with bio if you have one. If you're a company, come with your capability statement. Let them know that you're ready to do business today if they gave you a contract. So to me, that's the best way that I found to do it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Chris. Can you share where we can find you?
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram or CyberFinders Inc. You can also find me on, let's see, I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm not on Facebook, but I am on, let's see, LinkedIn. See, I can't even remember all the ones I'm on. Oh, and my website.
What's your website?
My website is www.cyberfindersinc.com.
Well, thank you so much. This was amazing.